Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Hey listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
This is Corey.
And this is David.
We appreciate each and every one of you. We thank you so much for bearing with us this spring season. Hopefully your planting is going well. Hopefully ours is going well as well.
That's a lot of wells.
It
There's
is.
a lot of wells.
It is. We are sharing content with you that we recorded obviously at trade shows and in our adventures this last winter, but this one was more important, maybe not more important, most important, maybe that's the wrong terminology. There's a reason we're recording this one fresh. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that means a lot to this team. I know it means a lot to you guys as listeners as well. So we're here to talk about things that aren't easy to talk about.
Yeah, and mental health's tough, right? Because it's not something you can see. When someone's sick, you can physically see it, and there's so much weighing on us beyond agriculture. But I mean, if you just look at agriculture, the guys out east getting all this rain, 7, 8, 9 inches every other day, just rivers running through yards. I see. I feel for you guys. We've been there. But then these markets and tariffs and all that. And then on top of that, you got to be a good human and good family person. And yeah, there's just so many things weighing on us. So it's no wonder that it's a hot topic.
Yeah, it is. And the format of the episode today is while Corey and Dave were conducting an interview with Zoe Kent out at the North American Conservation and Drainage Expo, I actually had the pleasure of of meeting with Angela Sorg and Abby Heidenreich. They were both from Purdue University Extension Office, and they built a program that they go around and talk to rural communities and build up the knowledge around mental health awareness and help try and break some stigmas. And they call that program the Strong Roots Program, Building Resilience in Agriculture. So, well, just like any good podcaster, instead of just meeting people, I put cameras up and recorded their presentation.
Nice.
Nothing like surprising them. I appreciate their willingness to participate. So what I have here is a couple of clips from that presentation I'm going to share with Dave and Corey, and then also with you folks, and kind of discuss maybe what we think, what we feel, and put together a little show here to kick off May.
Man, I'm glad you actually did something. I thought you were just mad at us and left and went to get lunch because you were hungry. So cool that you did something. Now I'm excited to see what you did.
Yeah, it was not just me stomping off to get a granola bar. Nope. But listeners, we do appreciate you. And maybe this is part of making you feel a little bit more sane as listening to us each week. And we're happy to do that. We're happy to be a part of your farm, your business. Remember, if you've got ideas for topics or if you just want to chat, 515-207-9640. Also, you can send us emails, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com.
Where have you guys been?
We just got back from the Custom Harvesters event where operators from across the country couldn't stop talking about Steinbauer performance modules.
Yeah, they're seeing up to 25% more power, better fuel efficiency, all with smarter injector duration and not altering the rail pressure for safe and reliable performance.
If you're looking to maximize your machine's potential, go to steinbauer.us and tell them Farm for Profit sent you to get yours today. So if we can get... This will be the challenge. See if we can get all of the technology to work together as far as that goes. Well, we're starting off on a good front. Good luck editing this, William and Kyle.
The volume.
And I want to talk to you about why our farmers and why agribusiness are so susceptible to any kind of mental health issues. Also, when I'm saying mental health issues, I don't necessarily mean a diagnosable mental health condition. So most of the people in my private practice that I see are just stressed the heck out. I don't give them a diagnosis. They're just stressed out, and they need to know how to manage that to move on to the next day. So we're not necessarily talking about anxiety disorder or depression or anything like that. We're really talking about some of those things, but we are talking about stress, which I think we can probably all relate to. Dr. Michael Roseman was a rancher in the 80s and a psychologist, and he came up with the term agrarian imperative. What this says is farmers are an endangered species and we need them for our sustenance. We need to take care of our farmers because no one else does. If farmers don't care for themselves, if we don't care for farmers, they can't care for us. So Dr. Michael Roseman, when you cultivate the land, when you raise your livestock, and that is a part of your family history, it is ingrained in your identity. If Purdue fired me tomorrow, I could go get another job. It would be stressful for me and I wouldn't like it and I would be really sad. But the long-term impact on my family is not going to be a lot.
On the flip side of that, if my father or my brother had to sell the farm tomorrow, there would be long-lasting effects on the mental health, the family health, as well as it's not just as easy as going and getting another job. There is a lot more involved in the farm. There's a lot more emotionally invested in the farm, and there is that identity piece that plays into it.
So we're really happy that Dr. Michael Roseman, he is still alive and he still does research. I have spoken with him and he is still doing some of the research that he did because, again, we're really seeing the same kind of increased mental health issues that we really did see in the 80s when he coined this term.
And I think that's top of mind right now. We've had a couple of friends of ours. Mike Burkhardt is one a couple weeks ago, sent out a TikTok saying that he was aware of a couple of young gentlemen that succumbed to their stress. Mm-hmm. And also a couple of other folks through reaching out to us have let us know that this is real. And maybe we started off listening to Angela. And then when Abby stepped in to talk about her brother and her dad, those will be the two voices you're going to hear today. But you feel that, Corey? Is it an identity thing?
Yeah, I was thinking about this quite a bit, actually, when you told me we were going to be doing this show of why it seems like it's so much more in agriculture. And she explained it perfectly in saying, like, whether you're a first-generation farmer or a sixth or seventh-generation farmer, like, you're proud of what you have. Like, you make it your lifestyle. And maybe that's a flaw of ours, but maybe it's not, right? Like, that's what makes farming so awesome, is that it is our lifestyle, but that's why it hurts so much more. But at the end of the day, realizing you can lose your farm, and that's okay.
And it's not the only industry, Dave, that has stress. All business owners have stress.
Yep. I was going to play the devil's advocate on this, not to be the cold-hearted son of a buck this morning, but I tell you what, if we're just talking stress, does it matter whether it's your family for stress? Because if I lose my job, I have a family too. It's my wife and kids, and we don't pay the bills, and we don't whatever. Mike was talking about young farmers that aren't making it. Well, did they stretch themselves too thin? Did they piss off their boss? Did they something? We don't know the stories. However, you're 100% right. It's not just agriculture, because there's mental health out there. I mean, I'm thinking of downtown New York, some young gal that got a marketing job that works for a fashion place. Hey, if she got the wrong coffee and her boss fires her, I bet she's got some stress too.
Yeah, and I think she explained that right on, like, if she loses her job, she's going to be extremely sad. She's going to be stressed. But the impact of her family, if you're a skilled person in that role, you should be able to go get another job. Maybe it would be more compared to, like, I own a carpet cleaning business. I'm sixth generation carpet cleaning, or whatever, and you lost that, what your grandparents started or something like that. I mean, but I understand what you're saying, Dave. You guys got stuff too. It's stress everywhere.
And it's not that farmers can't go get another job. They're highly skilled individuals.
Right.
They could go work on another farm. It just is a completely different shift.
Yeah, they get set in their ways and
calling their own shots, from making their own decisions.
How much of this is self-inflicted? And the reason I say self-inflicted is, you reap what you sow. You made your bed, now lay in it, right? So we chose the field, knowing that it wasn't,
or the field chose us.
Or the field chose us, whatever. But we decided to do it. We decided to make our margins. We decided to spend the money that we did. We decided to make it harder when arguably we could have done a different job. And there's lots of people that have changed and went a different direction. I wonder,
could have listened to Farm for Profit and
right,
made some adjustments.
Exactly. Well, we talk about this, and some of the most successful business owners or farmers, they treated it like a business. Well, people that treat it like a business, they don't have maybe as much emotion in the family tie.
Well, we've got 2 more clips here that are tied to the stress, which may provide some more answers to all of our questions and assumptions. So let's see if we can get that second one queued up.
A lot of them have chronic illnesses. A lot of them struggle with high cholesterol, diabetes. They struggle with high blood pressure. They struggle with heart disease. A lot of different things that can be traced back to high stress environments over a prolonged period of time. When we have an acute illness, have something like a cold or something that happens very quickly, it's very short-lived. When we have a chronic illness, that's something that takes place over a long extended period of time. And what we know is that when you are stressed out, stress creates a chemical reaction in your brain. It releases cortisol. It allows your body to react in ways that are not typically ideal for your health and wellness. Stress can lead to pulled muscles because of tension in the body. It can lead to a lot of hypertension, different things that come out as a physical reaction to stress that is actually from a built-up stressful period over time. So we also see a change in sleep patterns, people who either sleep all the time or can't sleep at night, which then leads to, as we know, grumpy people, right? If you're not sleeping or you're sleeping too much, it makes you grumpy, makes you less able to pay attention to details. Relationships suffer from irritability. How many of you, when you can't get enough sleep and you don't feel good, are your best self and is in the best shape to actually have a meaningful conversation with someone that you love? Don't do it. Right? Don't do it. Someone's going to snap. Someone's going to say something they don't mean, and your relationships will suffer because you forgot about so-and-so's baseball game that you were supposed to go to because you were so wrapped up in something that was going terribly wrong, right? Physical issues, like I said, can look short-term like stomach aches, headaches, muscle cramps, hypertension, things like that. Over time can lead to those chronic diseases, okay? One of the PSA videos that our team has put out talked to Sam Gettinger, and he is a meat producer, a meat packer, and he actually went through a bout with cancer as well as a couple other things. They went in to do some exploratory surgery. The surgeon cut him open and said, "Oh my God, what does this guy do for a living?" Because they could see the effects of stress on the body over time. It hit home for because he's a meat packer. He looks at carcass quality all the time. We handle our livestock in low stress environments because we know that high stress environments impact meat quality. Well, when you think about it on us as humans, it kind of takes a little bit of a different meaning, right? We want to have the best carcass quality that we can have for ourselves. But when we operate in high stress environments constantly, our meat quality is going down, right? I know, it's a weird way to think about it, but it makes sense, right?
It is a weird way to think about it.
Yeah.
Don't look at me like that.
Your meat quality.
Just look at me like a piece of meat. Well, I now know why I just wake up and random things hurt, and I have like a pulled muscle, and I didn't do anything.
It does. It makes you wonder. It will make you reflect back on how much stress was I under, and for how long.
Yeah.
Stress is one of those words that is probably hard to define, because I know that there are people that live in stress all day, every day. It might be acute stress, just a fear of escalators, or a fear of walking next to the street instead of somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But there's probably varying levels of stress.
We are going to get tore up for this clip.
You think so?
Yeah, because I know so, because I've been getting tore up on social media. It seems like there's this new push that agriculture is causing the chronic health problems, whether it's food related, herbicide, chemical, crop protection related. I mean, if you make any sort of close to controversial posts, it seems like there's people from outside of ag coming in and saying you're doing it to yourself. And,
So I had
and
to-
cancer rates and all that.
So I had to look it up because I was like, what is the actual definition of chronic or chronic disease? Long-lasting conditions often requiring ongoing medical attention that can significantly impact the quality of life.
Yeah.
How many farmers do you know that get a full night's rest?
I mean, I guess I'm not in very many farmers' bedrooms.
But
They like to talk about not being able to sleep. Or
I was
whatever,
going to say, how many say, well, yeah, I'm usually up before the sun or whatever it is. I feel like farmers do sleep less than most.
possibly.
Do they?
Yeah, not any less than realtors and auctioneers, but I think so. I think they're up late, get up early, and I know a lot of people that turn in at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and
Especially dairy farmers.
I thought the most
They're
accurate
up
thing
all the time.
that she said is when you have conversations, can all of this, I no matter whether it's realtors, auctioneers, bankers, whoever that don't get to sleep, okay, all that aside, we could debate that all day long. What are the effects of not getting the sleep? What are the effects of stress? You try to talk with your spouse and you miss a baseball game or you miss a something else and you're just trying to, be cordial. I think that's where the real stress comes in, is because now you just added another layer in there.
Yeah, it starts snowballing.
Snowballing
Yeah.
tension is what I'm going to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
you guys there's no outline for the day for the audience, but this next clip that comes from Abby to start off with is about secondary stress. What it's like to try and participate with other people, involve with other people while you're in a stressful situation.
Stress of the farmer or the farm family. Now let's talk about those who work with farmers. I am a contractor and I'm needing to get my stuff done and I need to get paid and I've got to do all of this, but I know the farmer is suffering. They've had a bad year. This is called secondary stress. You can have secondary stress based upon someone else's stress. The closest thing I can relate to that is when my husband is stressed, I also get stressed. I don't have the same stress that he does, but now I am stressed because he's stressed. So it kind of goes down the lineage of like our family or those that we work with. If Abby comes to work one day and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do about this, then I'm probably going to be like, okay, how can I help you? And if I have a feeling that I can't help her, then that might heighten my stress. So secondary stress or vicarious trauma, we're not necessarily going to get too much into trauma today. Stress and trauma are two different things. Stress is a symptom of trauma. Occurs when individuals indirectly experience a stress through their interactions with others. So pretty much what I just explained. And then again, I gave an example. I go around and to the country and talk to FSA workers, and we talk about this thing all the time because they know their farmers. They have known them for 20 years and they can't help them with what happened that year. So we talk a lot about secondary stress. So there are causes of secondary stress or the reasons why we get it. Number one is compassion fatigue. And I'll explain this more. The emotional toll of caring for others can lead to a decreased empathy and burnout. This can happen a lot when you are in a helping position with your farmers or you are a helping person. If you are on a farm and you are the one that everybody goes to all the time, at some point you can experience compassion fatigue. It's like, okay, I told you to do this, this, and this, and for the third year in a row, you didn't do it. I'm kind of out, or I'm kind of don't feel sorry for you anymore, or I'm not real empathetic for you anymore. Know that that is a real thing and know that you're not alone if you do happen to feel that way. Another one is high stress work environments. We've been talking about that. Heavy loads, demanding schedules, lack of service payments, and limited resources, which there are a lot of limited resources in agriculture as it relates to mental health that contribute to that secondary stress. And then for the trauma, working with clients who have experienced a traumatic event can lead to emotional exhaustion. We have had this with family trauma. We have had this with family suicides of our farmers. We have had this with disease on our farms.
Community events, community disasters, natural disasters,
Yep.
overall just things that happen on a very large scale usually end up looking like this.
And trauma is as unique to each individual. So Abby and I, we don't want to be in a car wreck, but if we were in a car wreck and we were in the same car wreck, I may experience that car wreck as traumatic and she may not. Or I may have different lasting effects of that trauma. She may also have trauma, but is kind of doing okay with it. So it's as unique as we are.
That secondary stress is, I've seen it physically, like in seed sales, guys that have salaried seed sales jobs, and the years that it's down, they're down. And it's like, why, man? Like, you get the same salary and you go home, you're still probably selling them the same amount of seed, but just it's because he's constantly around people that are bitching all day, that because they're not having a good time.
Yeah. I believe compassion fatigue is real. I've had it. You do. You tell somebody something or make a suggestion and you tell them to do it 2 or 3 times and they don't change. And it's kind of like, all right, I tried to help you. And is that a bad feeling?
Then you start questioning whether you should feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Which leads to that secondary stress. You know what?
You get mad, Dave, when farmers are mad at you because they can't buy a piece of ground, or are they constantly talking about how they can't afford it? It's too much.
Somewhat, I think I wrote down the right person for the right job. So I was thinking about your farm, Corey, and I was even thinking about me being a stress on you, asking questions about farming as a new farmer.
That's the whole reason we did this episode, was just for you to have that awareness of how much stress you put on Corey.
I know, right? So there is
this is an intervention for days.
There's caregiver burnout. Well, is there asking too many questions burnout? Is there working with your family, brothers don't know, I already told them how to do this burnout? Or, hey, my dad doesn't want to change burnout, or, something of that nature. I think it all goes there. But I have the same burnout in leadership. Every person in my office asks me a question every day to where I can't even answer an email because the door keeps opening and they keep asking questions and keep asking questions. So is there certain people for that job? My wife hates it. Yeah. She will not come to the office anymore because she's sick of people asking her questions, where I'm fine with it. You just prioritize time. There are certain people that are better in a leadership role where they're communicating with people all the time. So I'm going to say on the farms, mostly it's probably the dad that gets in the leadership role. They might not be the best person for that job. And they need to just realize it. Maybe they blow up because they're like, quit asking me this. I got stuff to do.
That is true. I mean, we pride ourselves on being kind of the jack of all trades and the master of none. And then it goes on for other stuff. But, I mean, we are the leader. We are the mechanic. We are the electrician, the plumber, the agronomist. In so many aspects, there's no way we can be the best at all those jobs.
Nope. But my dad was a bridge builder for the railroad, and he always had a saying. And his saying was, build a bridge and get over it. I do think that we are... we surround ourselves with the right kind of people. So if you want to surround yourself with other people that smoke, guess what? You're going to get secondary smoke, right? And if you surround yourself with people that are kicking butt and taking names, then you're kicking butt and taking names. So I do think it's a little self-inflicted here that if we are just around people that complain all the time, I don't like to be around people that complain all the time. Right. Even in my office the other day, I was like, look, I want people to work here that want to kick ass, take names. If you guys don't want to kick ass and take names and put the hours in, maybe it's not a good fit on my team.
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok the other day that the general message was, if you feel ashamed of your success, you need a new group of people.
That's right.
The other thing going with that, maybe you're not the right person for the job. Maybe you were farming for 15 years and it's been going swimmingly and something happened, dynamic change. I do think that's where a little bit of the deeper stress comes in on the farming side. They certainly could call Dave, sell the farm, go on to or go buy a farm somewhere else and farm, but it's extremely hard. It's not just like picking up and go, you know what, I I just shouldn't work for Whitaker Marketing anymore. I should go do something else. I should go cut lawns, you know.
Yeah, it's a mindset, though, and you just got to get out of your own space, because sometimes if you want to win the Super Bowl, you're not the quarterback.
Yeah.
And you just got to realize that. Now, some people can realize it and say, you know what? My money's actually better if I sell the farm and go put it in Edward Jones and let this gal manage it, and I'll make more money to start with. Heck, Mike Burkhart and I just had a conversation about that maybe you can make more in Edward Jones than you can in farming, but you had to get out of your own way to say, I'm not going to farm anymore. And Mike did it. He actually sold the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is interesting when you think about all the angles of what that is. It's it might not have been cool to be a farmer 15 years ago, but now there's a whole bunch of people that want to be farmers, and it's a profession that even folks like doctors and lawyers that want to come into and be a part of when they retire. It's such a romanticized profession, and maybe this next clip will provide us a little bit more insight on that. We'll hear from Abby here to start with.
A lot of farmers that we talk to, they farm, that is their primary occupation. A lot of places are businesses and agribusinesses that provide services to farmers also operate in a very similar way. Your identity is wrapped up in this need to provide, which that's a very natural instinct, is the need to provide for your family, for others. But we see that a lot more prominently in our agricultural communities. That's what makes our agricultural communities great, is that they care for each other. We look out for our neighbors, and we always are on the lookout for people that we can help, right? People that we can feed, that we can nurture, and that we can help grow. But that drives a lot of us to push past our own problems in order to care for others. Kind of allows us to kind of put it out of our minds. Growing up, it would drive my mom crazy, because when we would have a big snowstorm, my dad would go out on the tractor and plow all the neighbors' driveways before he would plow our own. And that was something that would just drive her crazy. But he had this need to provide for others before himself. A very honorable quality. However, when it comes to dealing with your own mental health and taking care of yourself, it makes you, in the grand scheme of things, a lot less able to care for your own family when you can't pour from an empty cup, basically.
So she's saying that possibly give too much?
Yeah, the way I understood that, and I reacted differently seeing it here versus when I was sitting in the room. In the room, I related to it in the fact that I want to make sure that all the bills are paid for my family, and we never have to worry about the lights getting shut off or worry about having to swipe your card at the gas station. I feel for the people that go and say, I need $10 on pump one. I don't want that to ever happen. I would rather sacrifice something of myself on the financial side. But then same thing is, I'd rather my girls have no idea that the world is, stock market's down a lot and there's unrest across here. I'd rather them enjoy themselves, and we'll do and try to provide as much of that. And then when I watched it back the second time, I was thinking about that feeling that farmers get when they see the corn come out of the ground. When they go through the field with the combine and see their yield monitor go up and potentially set records. The same thing with raising a calf and taking it to market. Just that we are providing for the nation. I went so much bigger picture watching it the second time than I did listening to it the first.
Mm-hmm. In the same breath, you say we're going to watch this come out, we're going to set records and all that. We're going to have the highest of the high. How can we not expect to have some of the lowest of the lows, right? When you have such a range of emotions of all that. So, I mean, farming's cyclical. We have to know that going into it, that there is going to be bad times. We are growing, for the most part, unless you're in a specialty market, we are growing commodities. Mm-hmm. So part of what Dave said earlier is kind of you picked the profession, right? We have to know it's just not always going to be peaches and cream.
Right. And I know, Dave, through your business and what you've done, obviously knowing you for as long as Corey and I have, that you have a need to provide, and you didn't start farming until last year.
Yeah, correct.
You have made an awful lot of personal sacrifices to get to where you are.
Yeah, and I've thought, even, is the juice worth the squeeze on that, or should I invest elsewhere? I'm not investing in the money side. I'm investing in the time side for the relatability to other farmers. But I think, Corey, even you bought a farm last year that you're not even going to farm this year, but you had to get out of the space of maybe I don't need to farm it. Maybe I'm here to provide. I'm here to provide, and maybe this one does, something different for us. So it's just thinking outside that box, and I think we're there. She made a comment on there. She said most everybody, this is their primary job is farming. I just Googled it, and I knew Iowa State had something. Iowa State says 40% of U.S. farmers, or 44% of people consider farming to be their primary income. So that's 61% or 60, what is it, 66?
56.
56, there we go.
Math's
Sorry,
hard.
math's hard this morning.
Auctioneer math.
Here we go. Yeah.
Less than half of farmers.
Less than half of farmers actually do it for a living. So they all have a side gig somewhere or something, so I don't know.
I'm just imagining Dave and his auction chant going 44, 44, 66.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading
50.
the post here, and it's a different number on the one that says 61% of producers lived on the farm, but then it changes to that 44% are considered to be full time. But
well, even in our survey for our audience, and we will get to that episode. You've been asking for that episode for a long time to go through the results of our survey, and we do have plans to do that. They state that there's a lot that have two jobs.
Yeah. And then I thought the second part that I took note on was service before self. So the Rotary mission. I don't know how many Rotarians we have that are listeners, but that's what it's all about. I do the same. I actually go push snow on all the other people, but that's just because I like to play in the equipment, not necessarily because I think that they need the time.
If he's got to get out and shovel the sidewalks, he ain't coming to your house.
Yeah, I'm not coming to your house. Let me run the new piece of equipment. Sure, I'll go play with it, put some hours on it.
John at Stable Farms does that, but he's just trying to get more land.
So the first half of their presentation out there at NACADE was kind of setting the base. Understanding that stress causes long-term illness. Potentially stress puts you into a mental space, whether it's your own or somebody that's around you. And then kind of understanding that nature versus nurture, where we sit as a farmer, based upon their research. Now we're 30 minutes into this show, and now we're going to get into the heavy parts.
Oh, heavy.
Yep. So this next clip is going to talk about suicide rates in agriculture.
So this is our suicide slide, okay? Every mental health presentation has to have one, because one of the best ways to combat suicide is actually bringing it up and having a conversation about it, bringing it to light. Farmers are 5 times more likely to die by suicide than other occupations. A common misconception is that if you go up to someone and you ask them if they're thinking about suicide, that they maybe hadn't thought about it before, but they sure are now, and they're going to do it now. That's not true. If you go up and you ask someone about suicide, if they have been contemplating suicide or if they have been having any suicidal thoughts, the worst case scenario is that they say no and they get upset with you that you asked them that and they get offended. You know what? If they do that, awesome. Happy for you. The other side of that is if you ask them about it and they say, yeah, actually I have. Because what they've been going through in their mind is they are drowning. All right? And they are just waiting for someone to throw them a life preserver. Okay? They are waiting on someone to notice that they're struggling because they mask it. Everything that they do is an effort to mask their feelings and mask what they're feeling inside so that others don't see it and they don't become a burden on others. Because when we ask people who we are thinking may be considering suicide, if they are, what that does is that shows them they see me and they can see me struggling. All right? What that looks like is when you ask them and they say yes, you stay with them. You take them to a place where they can get the care that they need, whether that looks like a hospital or whether that looks like a family member. You can call or text 988. That is a mental health crisis hotline. That is something you can call as a supporter. You don't have to be the one in crisis to call 988. You can say, hey, I just asked my friend if they were thinking about suicide and they said yes. What in the world do I do next? They will talk you through it. Main thing, don't leave them alone. Having a hard conversation. That's why what we talk about a lot is how important it is to open the door, have a conversation. It's a lot easier to have a hard conversation with someone than it is to wonder what would have happened if you would have had that hard conversation with them and you're standing at their funeral. It's a lot easier to have an uncomfortable experience to go through something with another person than it is to live the rest of your life with the wonders of what if. And that's the hard reality of it. But that's the poignant points that we want to make, is that this is what we're talking about. This is life or death. We have a couple of counties in Indiana that have experienced how many?
7
suicides over the past year and a half.
year. And it's
Year
a
and a-
small county.
Small county, small community. All right. This is what they needed to hear about, right? This is what they needed to hear. They needed to know that it was okay to ask. That's why we're talking about it. We know it's uncomfortable.
That's heavy. That's sad, extremely sad. We've had some around this area. It's
5 times more likely.
So Dave pulled up a website. 5 times more likely than the average population. Because he pulled up
This is
a top 10 careers that are more likely to commit suicides. And farmers are on it.
choice psychotherapy. Number 1, medical doctors, dentists, police officers, veterans, financial services, real estate agents, electricians, lawyers, farmers, pharmacists. Top 10.
Veterinarians.
Oh. Veterans probably too.
But the veterans aren't on this list. But maybe that's not considered a career in this aspect.
It's just a random Google search.
But a lot of it is what do you see? It's all service, right? High stress, especially I can imagine dentists, medical, like that kind of stuff. You botched a surgery and killed someone. What kind of veterinarians, you're constantly putting people's dogs down and seeing sad people. You're surrounded by that, or giving bad news. But farmers are on that. Real estate agents, you're higher than farmer there, Dave.
They were higher in the list, yeah.
But I don't think anyone's bragging to be in any position on that list.
It's fair.
So it's terrible. The thing I struggle with is everything I've always heard is like, the ones that are going through troubles maybe aren't the ones thinking about the suicide sometimes. Like every time I heard, it's like, I just talked to the guy yesterday. He was happy. He was great. I never would have thought anything of it. They mask it so well. So I don't know. How do you know?
Well, I just reflected back on that compassion fatigue, and the art of ask now, so you don't have to spend the rest of your life wondering what happens if I would have asked. What if you're freaking worn out because you've been trying to help the person for so long?
Yeah, that's probably real. And yes, have the hard conversation. It's way better than having the opposite. But
I also remember sitting there listening to this, and it caught me equally by attention here that if you ask somebody about suicide, very rarely, according to them, are you planting the seed for that idea?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, are you kidding me? Because some people will bring up topics to us, and I wasn't thinking about it until somebody else told us we should talk about it.
I have heard that argument of just talking about it is making people think about it more, and then putting ideas in it, maybe subliminally.
Also, her comments that the worst case scenario is that they get mad at you for asking. No, I'm pretty sure worst case scenario is they go through with the suicide.
Probably, but I think more just being a good person, talking to those around you, maybe calling a friend that you haven't talked to for a while, and just having that relationship where this phone call doesn't have to be about, hey, I need something from you, or what do you, it could just be just a chat for 5 minutes. We're all guilty of being extremely busy and not having time for this phone call or that or whatever, but maybe just take a few minutes every day to do that.
Maximize your yield potential with John Deere Planter Precision Upgrade Kits. Planting's one of the biggest factors in your farm's success, but we know margins are tight, and a brand new planter might not be in the budget. But that's why John Deere gives you the power to upgrade.
Boost speed with Exact Emerge, optimize product placement with individual row hydraulic downforce, Exact Shot, and Furrow Vision, or enhance efficiency with Exact Rate. Don't forget about the upgrades in LED lighting and the frame weight distribution. Get the latest technology without replacing your planter.
Set yourself up for success this planting season. Visit johndeere.com or contact your local dealer today.
I don't get it. I'll probably be blasted for this statement, but I just don't get it. I wish I could bottle up every bit of kick butt and take names and don't take no for an answer and sell it, because I've had people in family that have committed suicide, friends that have committed suicide, friends' kids that have committed suicide, and I don't understand it. I don't understand what could ever possess somebody to get to that point. I've had down times, I've lost jobs, I've whatever, but I guess I just have go juice to, hey, build a bridge and get over it. I don't understand it, so I would never be a good psychologist in this field, because I just don't understand it enough that I kind of just want to avoid it.
So I had this thought in this clip as well as like, I don't feel qualified to even be talking about what people feel or what should be done. And I don't know, like, you can't say anything's an absolute because we've never been in that position, right? We've never felt that pain that whoever went through with suicide to actually do it. Like, so, yeah, right, you shouldn't know why, right? And we can sit here and tell them, you should not do that. You're relieving so much more pain and on everybody else. It doesn't solve anything, just get some help. But we've never been in that position.
The other thing I'd say to this is, I was going to say it earlier and I didn't say it, is when I worked at the fire department, you'd have people have bad days, right? So likewise on a farm, there's people that had bad days. Something broke, something whatever. Everybody gets, I had a lieutenant, he says, everybody gets 3 days. So what do you mean everybody gets 3 days? Like, what, your grandma died, your dog died, I don't care what it is. We'll give you 3 days. We know something's wrong with you. You come to work. We'll give you a break. We won't, we'll be nice to you for 3 days. After that, it's still time to go back to work.
Yeah.
If you can't make it up in 3 days, get out of here. That being said, I do know a friend of mine that her son committed suicide, and they gave more than 3 days for sure. But even after that, you got to think of everybody else you work around. So now we're talking secondary stress again. Mm-hmm. Secondary stress. After a year, I started hearing like, well, man, we got to come out of this funk. Got to come out of this funk. Got to come out of this funk. Or maybe we need different jobs. Well, like if you're just going to stay in funk for the rest of your life, well, then you probably shouldn't be here working, the job. And so, and you see some crappy stuff at a fire department or at an ambulance. But eventually, you got to get out, because otherwise you're affecting everyone else that's there. It's all the secondary stuff, and you're affecting the rest of the team. Mm-hmm. So things to think about there. Mm-hmm.
I just can't imagine as a parent in something like that. Like, why? I don't blame them for being in a funk, right? I mean, you got to find something deep inside of you. You got to find faith, or oh man.
Invest yourself into something else. That's why you see, I shouldn't say that's why. I feel like that's a lot of times why there are foundations started and scholarship funds started and those types of mission projects in memory of those, because somebody is secondarily affected, and that's their way to do something with the energy that's causing them to have bad thoughts. Mm-hmm. But you asked a good question. Why don't we just get help? Why don't we just fix this? Why, if you feel this way, why aren't people buying Dave's kick-ass in a bottle?
Yeah.
And take through? And maybe we can get some of that addressed here in this next clip.
I think they might try it in a bottle, but it's the wrong juice. It's the wrong drug. It's the wrong...
We see a lot of stigma surrounding getting help. We have a lot of small communities. In your small communities, you who work in the agriculture industry or have service trucks or things like that, you can drive by the coffee shop and know exactly who's in that coffee shop, can't you? You know what Joe's truck looks like. You know what Tom's truck looks like. And you can see that so-and-so is there, right? Well, the same thing happens when you drive past the hospital, the medical clinic, or the therapist's office, right? You can see exactly whose truck is there. You recognize those vehicles. This is why we have people that are driving multiple communities away to visit a therapy office in a community that doesn't know their vehicle, because they don't want anybody to know that they need help. That's the kind of stigma that we're dealing with, that we're up against. But one of the things that I want to emphasize is that we teach our kids to ask for help when they need help with something, right? We teach our kids that it's not smart to try and do everything yourself. Sometimes you need help with something, and that's okay. Why do we let that go as adults? Why do we forget that lesson? That sometimes it's okay to ask for help. It's actually a really smart thing to use the resources that are available to you, to lean on others who may have a strength where you have a weakness. That's really smart. So when we have this do-it-ourselves mentality, when we have too much pride in our independence, we tend to overlook the needs that we have. There's this theory out there called the red truck theory, and it's that theory that I just described of if I have a red truck and it's parked at the therapy office, everybody's going to know that that's my red truck. So that's what we see as a big obstacle for people getting help.
Early on, you remember them talking about farmers with the desire to provide because they don't want to be a burden on somebody else?
Mm-hmm. They also said farmers should help farmers.
Yep.
But farmers are kind of our own worst enemy.
Yep.
You guys need in the auctioneer world, they have this thing called AHA. And everybody says together, AHA.
Aha!
Auctioneers helping auctioneers. We need a farmers helping fa.
I didn't pick up on the acronym to begin with. It was like, aha, to me. Like, literally, aha. It was just,
Auctioneers helping auctioneers.
you went fa-fa.
This is it. I mean, there is a stigma. Everyone knows that. Gosh, when I was younger and went to go to the bar all the time, I had a buddy. Every time I was with him, if we were close to town, he just wanted to drive by the bar and see who was at the bar. And I don't know who he was looking for, but sometimes we'd pull in, sometimes we wouldn't.
You gonna pull in there and jump somebody?
No,
Hey,
no.
my ex-girlfriend's new
No,
boyfriend.
it was never a girl thing. It was like someone he wanted to talk to and have a bush light with was there. He wanted to pull in, and it's like, that is real.
What if we treated mental health the same way? You drove past the psychiatrist's office, and if somebody's truck was there, you pulled in, sat down, and had a joint session.
I thought you said just had a joint. That might be what they need.
Could be. Could be.
I think this is where, my dad wanted me to go work. He thought I had bigger, better things to do than farm. Did not want me to come back and farm. Wanted me to go to college. I know that's not very popular, but wanted me to go work somewhere else before I came back to the farm. And I think that's probably where you can get a little more perspective. Because if you just go right back to the farm, you learned everything. And a lot of dads just never talked about their emotions, never talked about much, the money situation or whatever. Kind of like you said, Tanner, I'd rather have my kids just, have their childhood.
Shelter.
And then all of a sudden they don't go to college and they come back to farm and they never knew anything and they didn't talk. And then all of a sudden they start having issues and stuff and I'm just going to keep it in. That's what dad did. That's what mom did. They're going to follow in the same footsteps.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if Dave, if people could hear Dave say sheltered, but it's true.
Yep.
There's a fine balance.
There is. We do what our parents did, and that's how we learn, whether it's church, religion, social norms, et cetera, But then you go away, and oftentimes you go to college. Heck, I moved to Ames, Iowa, and wow, there's this big old world out there. There's people that think different than I think.
Not what I thought you were going to say. Big old world.
Why do I think different? Is well, that's because that's the way I was raised. Mm-hmm. Does it mean it's right? I don't know. It's for everybody to decide once they become an adult and make their own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to go out.
That is interesting if you think about it, because you'll see people that work and do and live completely different than the way they were grown up. But that's because something switched them. They saw it, didn't want to do it, didn't want to be it. And there's others that you can tell that they're at the Iowa State Fair, and that's his grandpa, dad, and grandson. You can tell they all still act and do a lot the same.
And that's fine. But I think just having some break in there of going out and getting perspective on the farm, the world, and all that, and being able to think on your own, independently think. I think that's big.
Yeah. The last couple of clips that we have here is one dealing with after the fact of a suicide. Mm-hmm. And then the last one is if you want to know what the resources are on how you can get help, we'll get to those. One thing that I jotted down during that clip is that we encourage kids to ask for help. That's something that we do, and I almost am the opposite. Granted, my kids are 9 and 11, so at this point in time, I'm trying to get them to do more things by themselves. I want them to do the laundry and the dishes and pack their lunches for school, and I'm trying to get them no longer to help. or ask for help, my help. I want them to do things
Your help
without me.
on that stuff, but if they have a math problem and they're trying to, in school,
Yeah.
and ask your teacher to come help and learn.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with employees, right? You want them to try and figure it out themselves, but if they don't know how, I'm being basic here, don't know how to service a tractor, and they don't properly do that, and it causes a big issue with repairs down the road because they didn't ask for help, that's a problem too. Even though I purposely tried to call my brother-in-law the least amount of times, because when I'm around him and his phone rings, I see how mad he gets. So it's like, I don't want him to be mad his phone's ringing because of something that I'm calling to ask him.
I don't know. Here's my rant for the day. Went to John Deere the other day and asked for parts, and I had parts. They had an intern, and I'm asking for parts, and I said, hey, do you have this? Guy comes out, here's your hydraulic hoses, sets them down. Okay, fair enough. I said, hey, did you get that little blue cap that I ordered for my windshield washer fluid, and my cap broke? And he's like, I don't know. Just stops right there. Like, this is society right now. Okay, well, do you want to go look and see if that part was in? Well, I suppose. I'm sad that I had to ask that. So he goes to the back to get the part, comes up, he's like, yeah, I don't see it. Okay, the customer's problem needs a cap, ordered the cap, is supposed to be at John Deere. So what were the actions we took to solve the problem? It's not there. Okay, society, let's try to ask ourselves a question. So I ask a question. Well, could you look it up in the computer and make sure that it was ordered to verify and maybe get me a time frame of when it would come? Well, I guess. Like, oh my goodness, this is so painful. He's looking. Now, granted, he's an intern. Where's all the other people? Okay, then they come. Guy walks by. Hey, no one's at the counter. Hey, have you guys been helped? Would be a great question. Nobody asked me that. So they all start looking. Can't find the product. Guy walks away from me and says, we'll order another one. Okay, like, we're going to order it now? Or we're going to walk away? Or we're going to keep ordering it? And then finally it's like, okay, well, I still have all these hydraulic hoses I had here. Do I need to pay for them? Oh, I suppose, yeah, we should do something like that. Goodness gracious, society. I'm so frustrated. Maybe it's the old balls in me here, but come on, solve the problem. Solve the problem. Answer the question.
Next thing you know, they're going to be flipping the screen around. They just got a question to ask you here. Would you like to tip?
Yeah, exactly.
15, 20, 25.
Is it four-wheel drive or
Custom?
two-wheel drive?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's my rant for the day.
Oh, I get it. Let's jump into maybe giving some people a pass if they're thinking about something in their lives right now. Just
3 days. Everybody gets 3 days.
Yes. Here we go.
The other thing I always say, it doesn't matter how close or how far apart you are from someone, if it is a family member, if it is a coworker, if it is somebody you went to high school, no matter what you say, no matter what you don't say, you are 100% never responsible for someone else's completion of suicide ever. At all. So just know that people get nervous about, oh my gosh, if I say this, then could that make someone die by suicide? The answer is no. One of the hard things that we have on our team is we never want everyone to say, okay, wait, you're talking about stress and now we're talking about suicide. Oh my gosh. There is a correlation between the two, but suicide can be a symptom of a larger mental health issue, okay? Or it can be a symptom of just life and how we grew up, just all of the messy stuff that we have to deal with. So it's not always like a direct, okay, if you're stressed out, then this is what's going to happen. It doesn't work like that. Also, if you notice, we refer to the word die by suicide as opposed to commit suicide. Commit implies, think about it, it implies like some illegal. So we say die by suicide, just it's a respect thing.
Not everyone who is experiencing mental health or mental illness is going to consider suicide or even attempt. But what the important thing is that you're prepared in case, right? It's one of those things to have in your toolbox just in case.
So these are some of the myths. Suicide is not common. The fact is, every day, approximately 108 Americans take their own life. A person dies by suicide every 13.3 minutes in the United States. Myth, someone who wants to die by suicide just wants to die. Fact, people who die by suicide do not necessarily want to end their lives. They just want to get rid of the bad things in their lives and the feelings of hopelessness. Myth, people who attempt suicide just want attention. That is not true. Suicide attempt shows that someone needs help. People who attempt suicide often think it is the only way to stop their pain. Their feelings are very real. Also keep in mind, when someone is contemplating suicide, they are not necessarily working in the neurons in a logical brain are not going. They are working maybe in a depressed brain or a stressed brain. And so the thought processes and the logic within that type of brain is very different than if you were not feeling those things. Myth, a person who survives a suicide attempt will never try to end their life again. Fact, most people who die by suicide have attempted suicide in the past. It's not usually a first thing.
I shouldn't have cut that clip off as fast as I did. I kind of abruptly ended, and there was a lot in it here towards the end of the show. The main thing that I wanted to have our audience know is those myths, and then also, if you're struggling, 3 days might not be long enough, but the past that they wanted to pass along to others it's not your fault.
Yeah, that hit. I mean, because I could see someone, especially if it was someone that you've been talking to a long time, and then you failed. Or you feel like you failed if they ended up dying by suicide. That was another thing I took away from that. I was like, we shouldn't say commit. That kind of makes sense, I guess.
She said commit because she said illegal. So I Googled, is it illegal? Well, sure enough, it is. In 17 countries, it's legal to commit suicide. So is there anything wrong with using the word commit?
Is the U.S. one of those 17 countries?
I don't know. I didn't get that far.
I also think of the word commit as it hasn't, like, well, you think of college sports, they committed to Iowa State, and then 2 months later they went somewhere else. So, like, you can't do that.
Or
if you died, you're done.
They
right?
commit a foul or commit a penalty.
Yeah. So
It's still an action.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't need to pick apart their presentation, but that's, like we've mentioned multiple times, we as individuals don't feel qualified to even talk about this.
No.
We're taking the role of having a podcast that a very large group of people listen to hopefully provide something in this show that you can walk away with and go, huh.
Right. Do you think farmers don't have very many other hobbies besides farming, since it is their lifestyle? You know, I know we get made fun of because we're at the lake all summer long, like at least row crop farmers. But maybe they just haven't entrenched themselves in other things off the farm, whether it's your health, like working out daily or joining an extra faith group or something like that, something else that you could go skiing, something like that you actually can just go, you know what, I'm just going to step away from the farm for a few days and get away from this because it's just times suck right now.
I think more do today than I saw 20 years ago.
Probably.
I think I'm thinking of one of the tenants I know that he was on a ski trip. He was in Florida. He was in Cancun. He was all over the place.
Those were all. I'm not even going to say that.
No
free ads. No free ads. I was going to say they're
nope.
free trips.
Nope.
Is that what it is? That's where. Oh, yeah.
No. We had a truck driver show up and load cattle, and he had a no free ad hat on, and you could tell it was the same brand of the trailer that he was pulling. Father-in-law walked up and said, "How cheap was the hat?" Well, wasn't very cheap.
Yeah.
Same thing with these free trips. So I want to play the last clip, and then maybe we can kind of summarize some thoughts of our own. I do know that these ladies and the Purdue Extension Office, they will travel outside of the state. And if your organization wants this presentation that they have, that they're willing to do that. If you know of a cooperative or an extension office that could benefit from having this in place, the Strong Roots Building Resilience in Agriculture presentation is available to be shared. They've got
do you guys
public funds to be able to help with that.
Do you guys think, I just thought of like disciplinary actions, as you were talking about, what you do with your kids. Disciplinary actions, they're all different parenting styles. There's oh, you shouldn't do that anymore. And then there's, I'm going to beat your ass.
Yeah.
Right? Are we too white glove with people that say they might want to commit suicide? Oh, your feelings are okay, this. Or should we say, hey, dingbat, this is not acceptable because XYZ. I feel like having been in the EMS side of the world, we're very white glove with it. Everybody's got feelings. We'll get you with a psychiatrist. Very soft voice, no sharp points. When maybe more the Marine mentality of suck it up, buttercup. And don't get me wrong, listeners. No. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying. Thinking holistically on this, are we taking the wrong approach? I don't know.
And I have no qualifications at all to answer that.
Just
I will say,
thought-provoking question.
Based upon the presentation that we've watched, you talking to somebody that's thinking about it is already a good step. So even if it's you talking to them saying, no, you're wrong, this is not what you should be doing.
This is not what you should be doing.
Is still supposedly, according to this presentation, beneficial. I go back to, I listened to Gary Vaynerchuk a lot, Gary V, and he talked about his long stretch of having not gotten sick. And the man travels everywhere, public speaks everywhere, in large groups of people, and he claims that it's a mentality.
Huh.
And maybe your Marine approach is, this is your job, this is how you do it, this is why we do it, this is when we do it. If you have the capacity to engage in a process, I mean, Corey and I were talking about how we didn't get sick this winter.
Yeah.
And this was the busiest winter we had. Maybe our brains, because we knew our schedule and everything that needed to be done, our brains said, we can't afford to get sick.
100%. I mean, think of like Navy SEAL training. They put them in horrible, horrible conditions. So like, hey, corn sucks. Commodity prices aren't good. The future doesn't look good. Yeah, I'm sitting in water. I'm freezing cold. I could just ring this bell and be out of here. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
For them, it's a mindset. I'm wondering if we don't sugarcoat that mindset too much.
Yeah.
And give everybody a pass out, if you will.
Could be. Well, this last clip, before we wrap up, does talk about the opportunities that you can utilize, the availableness of the items that can help you. Let's play that.
The Iowa Concern Hotline is a part of the North Central Farm Ranch Stress Assistant Network. There is a hotline, and they also serve Indiana. So you can call that hotline for just questions, or you can also call it for any mental health concerns if you don't feel comfortable necessarily calling 988. Very quickly, 988, like Abby said, replaces 911 for mental health. So in the past, if you called 911 and said, I'm experiencing a mental health crisis, you may get bells and whistles and police and all of that stuff, and you feel like a criminal. 988 was meant to replace that. It is a softer engagement with everyone across the country. Indiana, I mean, every state has it now. So that is the mental health resource.
Our team did create a agricultural training for these call center workers that they have used. So when you call a 988 call center worker, hopefully they have taken that training and they are aware of some of the things that agricultural families experience.
I liked that last piece of the clip that this group, the Purdue Extension Office, has created a training for the workers that answer 988 phone calls.
Hopefully they take it.
The training?
The training.
The call?
The training.
Okay.
I hope they take the call. That's what, yes, 988.
Sorry, here's your voicemail.
I was just thinking more on your roughing people up, treating them harder. Like I haven't seen a tar and feather, in these times type. It's one thing with a kid. You can't take your friend that's 35 years old and beat him up, tough love style. I think maybe what you're saying on the talking side, you can probably be a little bit more pointed, like, hey, you can't do this because of X.
Yeah.
Like, you have too much to live for. It's and try to separate that. Like you are worth it.
Yeah. There's just a lot in motivation. I like anything. We normally do these podcasts with motivation clips, right? This is normally where Tanner's at, and it's like we get those. You can't quit. You can't because of this, and it motivates people. Like when you're working out and you're just about to quit, like, oh my goodness, and you get 5 people like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And like, why aren't we motivating people rather than soft gloves? That maybe I should have worded it that way.
Or Tanner, soft hands.
Soft hands.
My soft hands. Again, I am interested to see and watch the trends of this episode compared to our other shows. I know, on average, how long our shows get listened to before people start to drop off. My hope is that people find value in this. Even if it's only a couple of you that made it all the way to the end, I thank you for doing that. I would encourage you to share this show if you found anything of value, or this is a soft white glove approach to maybe we send it to somebody that we're concerned about.
Yeah.
Maybe I should make the title a little bit unassuming, so that way it doesn't pop up on somebody's phone and say mental health problem ?
Are you thinking about committing to dying by
I
suicide?
think you need to label it. You want some motivation? Call Dave.
I will say, so 988, call that, and you can also call or text us, 515-207-9640. We will send a text back if you need to just talk to someone.
Yep. You got a text the other day. Someone just wanted to talk to you.
That was weird.
It was weird.
I think someone got hacked. That was a weird, but sure, send whatever if that's what helps.
No, we do appreciate you listeners, and if this can be anything to you, if you are feeling down, if you have had any of these thoughts, we care about you. We know that we ride with you every week in your pickup, your AirPods, your tractor, wherever you're listening to us. If you're milking cows, we get that and we appreciate that. So you matter to us, and you matter to a lot of other people. But I feel like that's the best at this time we could do with our skills and abilities. You guys have anything you want to say before we close out?
Can I make a joke?
Go for it.
If you've listened this long to this episode, you're probably depressed.
No, they might be listening for someone else.
Oh, you might be listening for somebody. You're good.
I just want to say that at the end of the day, if you're 6 generations in and it's looking bad and you might lose the farm, that sucks. It really freaking sucks. But there's so much more to life than that. You can go be great in something else. Doing something like dying by suicide it's not worth it. It's absolutely not worth it.
If you feel like that's you and you've got a fear of the farm going away, do text us and call us. You've got 3 creative minds here that might be able to find a way to help you figure it out. It may not look like the way you're doing it today, but it doesn't mean you have to stop.
Right.
In any form or fashion.
Yep.
Well, again, thank you, listeners. Appreciate you a bunch. And until next time, have a good one.